The tranquility of the Rocky Mountain pine forest was shattered, not by a bear, but by the whine of a golf cart and the arrogant rap of a knuckle on my screen door. Ethan Vance, retired combat engineer, looked out at 6 men in cheap, tactical vests emblazoned with eagle-eye community security. They didn't look like guards. They looked like rent-a-cops on a power trip. The lead guard shoved a document through the screen. "Mr. Vance, this is a final notice. You have 24 hours to vacate and dismantle this structure. You violate community aesthetic standards." The structure in question wasn't just a house. It was a 4-generation family cabin built by my great-grandfather Ezra Blackwood in 1946 after he returned from World War II, seeking peace in the quiet heart of the Colorado mountains. It was my sanctuary, bought and paid for with blood and history. The real threat was standing behind the security squad. Vivian Thornfield, the HOA president. Vivian wanted my cabin gone to build a $2 million modern luxury villa for herself. This was not about aesthetics. It was about acquisition. Vivian's campaign started petty, but quickly turned predatory. Initial fines arrived at $500 per day, always accompanied by photos taken at the worst possible angle to exaggerate the cabin's rustic state. When I ignored the fines, she escalated the matter. "Mr. Vance, your initial 1946 documentation is obsolete," Vivian's attorney stated in a certified letter. They then used a firm owned by Vivian's husband to demand an $8,000 architectural compliance inspection, knowing I couldn't afford it or face immediate demolition. My first line of defense was history. I presented the original 1946 construction permit and a 1995 appraisal certificate that explicitly granted grandfathered status to the cabin. Vivian, however, simply ignored the legal documents and called an emergency HOA meeting to vote on demolition. Fortunately, I had started digging. Rosa Martinez, a kind and meticulous county clerk, slipped me a file. It revealed Vivian's history. She had successfully harassed and financially drained 5 other families, mostly elderly veterans and fixed-income residents, to seize their land for her development schemes. I used the grandfather documents to legally nullify her emergency meeting, exposing her procedural errors. Vivian's retaliation was swift and destructive. My power was cut off for 3 days, followed by $3,000 in pipe damage after my main water line was inexplicably shut off for maintenance. Then, huge granite boulders were strategically placed to block the main access road to my cabin, forcing me to haul supplies on foot. Desperate, I followed a lead from an old Korean War veteran, Stan Kowalski, who introduced me to Jake Morrison, a no-nonsense civil rights attorney from Denver specializing in HOA abuse cases. Vivian, bolstered by her perceived victory, doubled down on psychological warfare. The private Eagle Eye security began aggressive night patrols, shining powerful flashlights into my windows every hour, making sleep impossible. But I was prepared for this kind of counterinsurgency. I installed military-grade surveillance cameras hidden throughout the perimeter. The surveillance paid off immediately. The cameras captured the Eagle Eye guards planting evidence, tossing bags of trash and scattering apparent drug paraphernalia near my mailbox to justify calling the sheriff. The legal breakthrough came from Jake Morrison. After months of digging, Jake discovered the HOA itself was legally non-existent. Due to intentionally incorrect filing procedures years ago, the entire Willow Creek Estates HOA Incorporated was merely a shell. Every fine, every notice, every demand was legally void. The final piece of the puzzle revealed the depth of the criminal conspiracy. Jake uncovered evidence that Vivian had embezzled over $380,000 in HOA dues into offshore accounts, meeting the criteria for federal RICO charges. Then, the true cavalry arrived. 6 of my cousins, all former Army and Marine Corps veterans, drove in on their roaring Harley-Davidsons, clad in denim and leather. They set up a 24/7 security perimeter, establishing shifts to monitor Vivian's thugs and openly film their every move. The sight of 6 muscular veterans patrolling the grounds was enough to make the Eagle Eye guards suddenly find excuses to retreat. The psychological war had shifted entirely. The mere presence of my security team made the eagle-eye guards hesitant and nervous. Vivian, frantic and losing control of the narrative, drove herself up, wearing a desperate smile. She offered a final, private bribe, $50,000 in cash, to leave immediately. The entire exchange, the cash being handed over her explicit admission of wanting the land, was captured on 3 separate covert cameras operated by my veteran cousins. The final hammer fell after the cameras aired the truth. Investigative reporter Jessica Martinez of Channel 7 aired a scathing exposé detailing Vivian's embezzlement, the fraudulent HOA, and the organized harassment campaign against elderly veterans. Sheriff Jake Rodriguez, having received multiple reports of militia activity from Vivian, arrived with backup. He instantly recognized my cousins and dismissed Vivian's bogus claims. The showdown took place at a hastily convened community meeting. Jake Morrison presented the irrefutable evidence, the non-existent legal status of the HOA, and the proof of Vivian's embezzlement. As the community recoiled in horror, Sheriff Rodriguez walked in and arrested Vivian Thornfield publicly for conspiracy, wire fraud, and grand theft. Justice served. Vivian Thornfield pleaded guilty to fraud, embezzlement, and civil rights violations, receiving a sentence of 4 years in federal prison and a large restitution order. Community rebirth. The residents voted to dissolve the fraudulent HOA officially and formed a new, fully transparent association dedicated to historical preservation and ethical governance. New beginnings. The title to the cabin was secured and officially restored. My veteran cousins and I founded Rocky Mountain Adventure Guides, LLC, running a successful guide service out of the newly renovated cabin. The restitution funds were used to create the Garrett Blackwood Veteran Scholarship Fund. My family's cabin became a symbol of resistance and a haven for veterans, standing firm against the tyranny of unchecked power. My story became an official legal case study on housing discrimination law, proving that even a single family, backed by perseverance and loyalty, could defeat a corrupt system disguised as community governance. Tell me what you think. The most dramatic moment was when Ethan's veteran cousins arrived on their Harleys. Do you believe having a strong, physical presence is necessary to deter HOA harassment, or should the battle always remain purely legal? What would be your immediate response if HOA security gave you a 24-hour ultimatum? Share your thoughts and let us know what legal fight Ethan should tackle next.